Devlin, too, took a role after his arrival. By now, payments were being made to the 5 members who formed the nucleus of the Binza group, so-called because its members lived in the elite Leopoldville suburb of Binza, where only white people had lived before independence. This powerful clique comprised Mobutu, Army Chief of Staff, Victor Nendaka, Justin Bimboko, Foreign Minister, Albert Undele, Finance Aide, and Damien Kandolo. Also on the list of recipients were Kasabubu, the Senate President Joseph Ilio, and Cyril Adola. Further information about the bribing of Congolese politicians emerged in 1975 in the course of the wide-ranging and revelatory investigations of the Church Committee, a U.S. Senate committee chaired by Democratic Senator Frank Church to investigate the intelligence activities of the U.S. government. An important dimension of his investigation was the events taking place in the Congo in 1960 to 1961. In the course of the Church Committee investigation, Douglas Dillon was asked, were you aware that the U.S. was supplying financial support or other kinds of support to moderate politicians within the Congo who would be opponents of Lumumba? He replied, not in detail, but certainly the general fact that we would be doing that, yes. Soldiers were also bribed by the CIA. UN liaison officers attached to Mobutu noted the constant comings and goings of Western military attachés who visited Mobutu with bulging briefcases containing thick brown paper packets, which they obligingly deposited on the table. The United Nations officers did not know what they contained, but could not help making guesses. A senior UN official believed that with this money, Mobutu's men became by far the most affluent soldiers in Africa. The historian David Gibbs has commented that these highly paid soldiers may not have numbered more than a few hundred, but he adds they constituted virtually the only functioning units in the Armée Nationale Congolaise. With such a political base, he points out Mobutu was able to play a decisive role. The CIA used Mobutu and his soldiers as a freelance strike force. It has been alleged that Frank Carlucci, a political officer at the US Embassy, was working for the agency. He vigorously denied these allegations. Between 1957 and 1959, Carlucci had been on the staff of the US Embassy in Johannesburg as a commercial officer. Whether or not he was CIA, he worked hard to collect intelligence on the Pan-Africanist Congress. In an interview in 1997, he recalled, I got acquainted with the movement, which interestingly, nobody in Pretoria had been able to do. Our embassy was constrained from attending the meetings. The meetings were in Johannesburg. So I established a personal relationship with some of the political officers in Pretoria. I reported to them. The Pan-Africanist Congress in South Africa, abbreviated as the PAC, had been founded in 1959 by Mangaliso Robert Sobukwe. National Congress, Agono, said a university lecturer as a breakaway movement from the African National Congress, ANC, identifying itself as Black nationalist and anti-communist. The PAC's anti-communism attracted the attention of Washington. According to Dennis Epstein in White Lies, the ANC later suggested that its new rival was a CIA creation, the conception taking place in the Johannesburg offices of the United States Information Service, where Portlake Lebalo, the National Secretary of PAC, had been employed. This allegation has been challenged as factually inaccurate. But in any case, as Epstein notes, the split was not displeasing to Pretoria. The new Congress might weaken the ANC, whose non-racial demands could not possibly be appeased. But the message of Africa for the Africans might, with skill, be blended into the realm of separate development. At the end of his posting in South Africa, Kalushi went back to the US for French language training before being sent to the Congo in 1960, 15 days before independence. When he first arrived, he did not have much contact with the CIA. Nonetheless, he considered it a priority to collect intelligence. So he wrote, I persuaded the DCM, Deputy Chief of Mission, Rob McCavin, a marvelous man, to allow me to rent a Volkswagen. So I had my own car and didn't go around in an embassy chauffeured car. I then got myself some press credentials because the press moved around more freely than anybody else could. Lumumba tended to hold a press conference a day, and I figured it was important to get into those. Then I got myself a pass to the parliament, which was in formation, and basically spent all day outside the embassy, just floating in from time to time. Kalushi described Lumumba as an absolute spellbinder, a very charismatic man. There is a brief mention in Devlin's memoir of the bugging of the telephones of an office belonging to the Czechs, presumably Czechoslovakia. That's the Czechoslovakia's embassy. This required a house nearby to use a listening post. This required a house nearby to use as a listening post, which was organized by Jeff and an American technician sent out to the Congo to assist them. Few details are given by Devlin, apart from an episode in which the technician, groping for wires in the darkness, wrapped his hand around a snake. Devlin's memoir is threaded with moments of danger when he remained cool and collected. Taking a deep drag on a cigarette, but the book is incomplete and unreliable. It is a collection of anecdotes, often implausible, tied loosely together. At times, it appears to be deliberately misleading. In any case, many aspects of his life appear to have been routine. His wife, Colette, and daughter, Maureen, joined him in Leopoldville, where Colette enjoyed teaching her cook to prepare favorite dishes, and Maureen went to a riding club. They lived in a house less than 100 yards from the Ghana embassy and near the residence of the Timberlakes. Alison Palmer, the US Vice Consul, was candid about the advantages of being a well-funded American in Leopoldville. We had a 2-hour lunch hour, and I would go to the swimming pool with some friends and we would play a couple of sets of tennis and then cool off in the pool and then have lunch and get back to work again. Laughs. And I belonged to the riding club there and did a lot of riding. The pleasures of the Devlin's family life did not prevent him from admiring Madame Bloin, Lumumba's chief of protocol. To his eyes, she was a striking, light-skinned beauty. He regretted that she was anti-white and reportedly had considerable influence with Lumumba. But all the same, he found her tantalizing. Less tantalizing was Daphne Park. That is a Devlin's MI6 counterpart in the Congo, who had arrived in 1959 under cover of post consul at the British Embassy and cut a short, stout, and frumpy figure. For years and years, Park told a Guardian journalist in 1979, "I have looked like a missionary, which was a great advantage in my career." According to one British correspondent in Leopoldville, in 1960, Park was to be seen everywhere, a large, bespectacled lady, usually with a cigarette ash on her ample bosom. Another British correspondent in the Congo described her as a very unusual political secretary, a large, jolly, and immensely well-informed girl. She drives a small car, always full of people, and successfully invites the most astonishing collection of rival African leaders to her house outside Leo. Park and Devlin became good friends, sharing similar attitudes towards events in the Congo. While Daphne and I worked separately and did not have any joint operations, Devlin recalled in his memo, "We know each other well and had come to similar conclusions. She was," he thought, "one of the best intelligence officers I have ever encountered." She harbored communism and the Soviet Union and felt a strong hostility towards the United Nations, strongly disapproving of Amashkot. The United Nations force had very curious ground rules concerning non-intervention. She observed curious ground rules, right? She observed in 1989 in an interview with the New Yorker, which caused me to become disillusioned with the United Nations forever. That was her. It was interesting to many of the African nationalists, said Park, because I traveled up and down the coast a lot to Ghana, Nigeria, and French West Africa. When I first arrived, I used to go to fetch the embassy mail from Accra. Most people like to do it once or twice, but then got bored. Whereas I didn't mind. One had to cross the river to Brazzaville, then fly to Douala, often getting stuck in Gabon en route. One would get as far as Lagos, then get stuck again before reaching Accra. It would take 3 days, she added. I was meeting and talking with people all the way, so I knew what was in the air. She regarded her job in MI6 as not simply intelligence gathering, but also intervention. Once you get really good inside intelligence about any group, she explained in a television documentary in 1992, you are able to learn where the levers are and what one man fears of another. You set people discreetly, rather. You set people discreetly against one another. They destroy each other. We don't destroy them. So I'm going to leave it at that. So I think it's ideal we take 1 or 2 more courses, okay? So I'll leave it at that. We'll continue later, okay? Just to make sure that at least you have a chance of hearing your views as you would want to. So I'm going to open the line. We have, oh, hang on. I think we only have just about half an hour. So I can take off for 30 minutes instead of using the rest, the 30 minutes to read the remaining 10 pages. Okay. So we'll keep the line open. And it won't just be like Ahmed was the only person who got through, right? So I'll call it a break. Okay. I'll call it a break. And it's just going to be briefly. So if you want to be part of this or you have something to say on what you have heard so far, then grab your phone. Yeah, grab your phone and use the WhatsApp. It's actually WhatsApp call, okay? So let's see how many of the calls we can take. I'll be back. I have a caller. Hello there.
Yeah, this is your namesake again calling from Seychelles.
Olushola,
this is Olushola calling.
Seychelles, Olushola. That's my namesake, though. How are you
So
today?
how are you doing?
Very well, oh.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good on you. I'm good on you. You see, one of the interesting read, the one you were reading, the one that really caught my fancy, was the one the agent was saying, we do not destroy them. They destroy themselves.
That's right, sir.
All they needed to do anywhere is just to set us to ourselves, and then we self-destroy, we destroy ourselves. We just complete the job. So that's why when people are thinking we are free, we just, that freedom is just like a mirage. From the slavery period to the colonization period to this new colonization period, which experts says even new colonization is the worst. Kwame Nkrumah said new colonization is the worst form of colonization.
That's right.
Because people will think they are free. What we had was just flag. They just gave us flags. They are still running the strings at the behind. They are just there running the strings. You self-destruct. For instance, look at the case of Ruto.
Did you hear that part where those Kenya, that brilliant Kenya, I was analyzing how they have already infiltrated their politics and made them feel like they are electing their leaders when they are not.
I heard that.
Good.
I heard that. It is the same thing playing all over Africa. It is just this. You see, they have their trappings. They are just behind the scenes running the show. That's why they will make us to elect the worst of us. You know, when Ruto came, Ruto was just, I was telling somebody that this guy was suffering from what we call halo effect.
Right.
He just came in on the show. He was attacking the West. He was talking to Macron. People were saying, oh, maybe we have a new messiah in Africa. But when he started going to US, when he started supporting that their rubbish deal to send his own policemen to go and die a useless death in Haiti. So I knew that something was in the offing.
Honestly,
he's not the guy. He's not the Messiah.
Now he's crying that the
NGOs
are taking over his country. They are the ones sponsoring protests now. So he's about to go with them, I think.
He's a very stupid man. He's a very stupid man. He actually taught the so-called the normal playbook which all these corrupt African leaders do. Okay, they want to have an uprising. Let's crush them. Yes. Once we kill them, we annihilate them. They will input fear into them, and then they will cow. But that just completely failed. So it's just like a dying man, just like a sinking man that is just looking for anything to hang on to. He was just trying to hang on to anything. He's just a foolish man. But the way I just thank God is that Kenyans, Africans are actually waking up, and the Gen Z are actually like, okay, the leaders, the millennials, they have failed us. We must not fail ourselves. Because the future belongs to the youth. The future normally the future belongs to them.
Nobody cares about anybody's future.
Nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about them. So they use all sorts of nonsense. You are not respecting us. You are not. They use also all those nonsense to gaslight them, to annihilate them, and